Hey, folks watching at home. Um, so I'm not real sure how many folks are taking advantage of using YouTube since we can go over the materials. So what I thought I'd do is I'd give those folks who are taking advantage of a little help for the test we're taking on Wednesday. So what you'll see right here is the homeworknow.com page, as well as the test essays right along in here that are going to be on the test. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over each of them just a little bit so you have an idea of what I'm expecting. So as far as the first essay, the question is, what are the effects of nationalism in Europe during the 19th century? Well, there's a few of these. First of all, we have to understand that nationalism is both a um, positive and negative force in terms of bringing people together. Nationalism is this idea that we are going to be intensely proud of our background, our country, our culture more than anything else. A good example of that today is actually the Olympics because it promotes this sense of extreme patriotism. So it's sort of like that. However, we have to understand that not all countries are just one group of people. The United States, for instance, is made up of many different ethnic backgrounds. And so what happens with nationalism in a country like that is it tends to break it apart as people start siding with their background and not with the country itself. So examples of the 19th century. The Ottoman Empire had been this big multicultural empire for centuries, but with the spread of nationalism, a lot of these different countries, or rather nationalities within the country, started vying for their own country. And for instance, Greece broke free, and then we also saw the same thing happen in the Balkans with Serbia, as well as Wallachia and Romania. So this is one example of how, with the spreading out of the Ottoman Empire, but breaking apart of nationalism affecting things. In addition, we see instances of it bringing people together. Two examples of that we could look at are Germany and Italy. Now, Germany, under the control of Otto von Bismarck, ended up unifying based along these German nationalist trends as they started bringing together the countries that had been broken apart because of the 30 Years' War and the Peace of Westphalia. So in that case, we see nationalism bringing people together. We see the same sort of thing happen in Italy because really Italy is made up of city-states, individual places that really kind of side by themselves, again, based on cultural background. So what Camillo Cavour does is he promotes this idea of Italianness that starts to unify all the various Italian city-states. So again, we see another example of it bringing people together. Now, how did the Industrial Revolution begin? Well, it started off actually with an agricultural revolution. Different technologies, such as Jethro Tull's seed drill, allowed for farms to produce a lot more, needing fewer workers. So what happened is the landowners, which are the nobility predominantly, decided they didn't really need as many workers, so they started firing a whole bunch of them. And basically that meant kicking these farmers off their land and then taking all that small block of land and making it into one big farm in a movement called enclosure. That forced a lot of these farmers to try to find work in cities, which provided a lot of the labor forces necessary for industrialization. With the new technologies being developed, we also see that the first uh, sort of businesses to be industrialized was textile mills, individuals who were working on things like the creating of cloth. So these were built along waterways, taking advantage of natural occurring power sources, and basically with all these farmers who are put out of work are coming into the city, developing the urban environment in a process called urbanization. We have the development of the Industrial Revolution. So sort of a one thing leads to another situation. Finally, comparing and contrasting the viewpoints of Karl Marx and Adam Smith. Both are philosophers about the economy. The difference is who should control the majority of resources, the means of production, and who should, or rather, how much should the government be involved. Now, Adam Smith said that there should be no government involvement, where Karl Marx said that the government should basically take over all of the natural resources so that everybody could benefit from them. Now, the difference, though, is that Marx didn't think that a government would last in this way and eventually would fade away as the need for government disappeared. Adam Smith, on the other hand, didn't really think that the government would disappear, but rather that it was unnecessary in terms of interacting with the economy. So Karl Marx said that it was necessary for the government to step in and change the economy because it was unfair. Adam Smith said that wasn't necessary because by nature the market would fix itself. That's what he called the invisible hand. So they had very differing viewpoints in this regard. Um, Now, on the other hand, they did have some similarities, at least in the sense that this standpoint that um, basically left to their own devices, things would more or less work themselves out. Karl Marx didn't necessarily say that, we need to go revolt, although he did believe a revolution would occur. It was more of an idea of what would happen. Whereas Adam Smith had this slightly different aspect of his view. He still said that the government interaction wasn't really necessary. So, kind of a few points to look at is one, how much government was necessary. Two, the attitudes about the nature of who should own what. In the case of Adam Smith, he was saying more that you want competition, lots of different people, where Karl Marx said everybody should basically own it together. So, in all ways, they're kind of differing viewpoints. And then finally, the influence of what would happen, essentially. So in the case of Karl Marx, he said that class struggle was inevitable, that you wouldn't ever really have a fair system unless things changed. And Adam Smith said that basically things would work out on their own. So anyways, hope that helps you guys as you guys are putting your essays together. And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll leave this be. I'll upload it, and you guys can take a look at it. Good luck.